This is the first of a two-part video made from the text of William Walker Atkinson's Arcane Formulas. It was written in 1909 and is in the public domain. This is a companion to his book The Arcane Teaching, and also fits nicely with the Kabbalion. It is from Lesson 10, Mentalism in a Nutshell. Now the text begins. In the Arcane Teaching we have shown that the fundamental principle of mentalism, in all of its forms, is the fact that the cosmos itself is one universal mind, and that the manifested cosmos may be likened to a great universal brain, in which the forms of things and life are but as thought forms in the human brain. There is mind in everything, and everything is in mind. Consequently, just as thoughts become things in the cosmic brain, so is it possible for a strongly concentrated and focalized mind, will, to materialize into objective form things and conditions on the material plane. Just as the cosmic will manifests the cosmic activities and forms, so may the individual will materialize activities and forms on its own plane. There is but one difference between the cosmic will and the individual will: the difference in degree. All will, from the cosmic will to the feeblest individual will, is identical in nature, although widely differing in degrees of power. In fact, the individual wills are but focalized centers in the great cosmic will, varying greatly in power and manifestation. This being so, it follows that the same laws and principles are applicable in all manifestations of will, from the highest to the lowest. In the Arcane Teaching we have described the principles and laws underlying the manifestation of mentalism, and there is no occasion for entering into this phase of the subject in this little book. Instead, we shall proceed at once to give you the formulas for the actual demonstration and manifestation of these principles. We refer you to the Arcane Teaching for the explanation and the theory. In this chapter we shall give you mentalism in a nutshell, condensing into its limited space the essence and substance of what could be expanded into several books. Formula for positivity. In the laws of mentalism there is a fundamental principle that the positive always dominates the negative. The negative is always subordinate to the positive. Everything has its keynote of positivity, and that keynote depends upon the degree of will consciousness. When one becomes well polarized in will consciousness, he is intensely positive to those around him, not only to persons but also to environment and conditions. This positivity is, of course, dependent upon the degree of will manifested by the individual. Remember, we say the degree of will, not the amount or quantity of will. The average person, when he thinks of will power, is apt to think of a large amount of quantity of will which must be manifested by the individual in order to produce its effect. This is erroneous. There can be no such thing as quantity or amount of will. This is a fact known to all advanced occultists. Will is not a material substance occupying space in the way that matter or force occupies space. It cannot be measured by spatial dimensions. One cannot think of a yard or pound of will, nor can he conceive of will being measured by the units used in the measurement of electricity or other forms of force. There is a standard of measurement of will, but not a measurement of quantity or amount. It is altogether a matter of degree. The degree of will manifested by the individual depends upon his degree of focalization or polarity in the cosmic will itself. The greater the realization of one's relation to the cosmic will, the greater is his capacity for manifesting will power. Consequently, all efforts toward developing positivity in will power must be based upon the fundamental realization. The formulas given in the earlier chapters of this book will give to the neophyte the key to the secret of mentalism. The arcane formula for the manifestation of will power consists simply in the development of the realization of egohood, of the fact that the individual is a focalized center of force and will in the great cosmic will. The higher the degree of this realization, the higher degree of positivity will the individual possess. Fasten this truth in your minds. The willpower of the individual is not something created by him, but is, in reality, the power of the cosmic will in which he lives and moves and has his being. The individual has no willpower in himself, but all the will he manifests must flow through his organism from the cosmic will. The individual is merely the focal point of will, a channel through which the cosmic will may act. Ponder well these words, O neophyte, for in them is contained the whole secret of mentalism. Will atmosphere. The neophyte should create for himself a positive will atmosphere, or aura, which will tend to serve as a protective armor shielding him from adverse influences from outside, and also tending to render his positive power felt by those with whom he comes in contact. The positive atmosphere is occasioned by the vibrations in the mind stuff with which all space is filled, just as the brain is filled with mind stuff of its own particular quality. The cosmos is a world brain, remember, and the cosmic mind stuff is everywhere. Vibration in the mind stuff is just as real as vibration in the ether, or in the air, or in matter of any and every kind. The positive atmosphere is created by a pure act of will, aided by visualization. The neophyte should first realize that he is will itself. Then he should visualize, mentally imagine or see, the mind stuff in his immediate vicinity becoming charged with the positive power of will. It will aid him to think of himself as surrounded for a distance of about 3 feet with an egg-shaped aura or atmosphere of highly charged will, radiating from him and vibrating with an intense energy. As a matter of occult truth, this phenomena is really existent, although the ordinary senses cannot perceive the vibrations or aura. Treat yourself every day, or oftener, with the intent to increase the degree of your positive atmosphere. The more clearly you can visualize, or imagine, the existence of this aura or atmosphere, the greater will be your degree of positive personal atmosphere. The neophyte must not allow himself to be deceived in regarding the imagination as an unreal, fanciful thing. It is a mental activity of wonderful occult power. The neophyte will soon discover that he has acquired a new positive personal atmosphere, and that those with whom he comes in contact will feel a something peculiar about him, and will tend to become negative to him, unless they, too, understand the principles involved. As time passes, and practice renders him more perfect, the neophyte will move about among ordinary people just as a highly charged magnet or electric wire. It is difficult to describe this, but those who will practice to acquire it will soon become conscious of their newly found strength. In order to focalize more fully, the neophyte may hold in his mind the mental image or statement of, "I am a center of positive will." Personal positivity. The neophyte may occasionally find that he is in the presence of persons more positive than himself, owing to their past training or experience. In such cases, he should at once determine that they shall not overlap him, the occult term used in such cases. He should determine at least to meet the positive persons, edge to edge, if not indeed to overlap them. This is accomplished by at once denying the positivity of the other person, silently and mentally, of course, by the assertion, "I deny your positivity over me." At the same time, the neophyte should focalize on his own will consciousness, seeing himself as a focal center of will, and having the cosmic will back of him. He will soon find that he will rise in the scale of positivity, and the other will sink a degree below him. If he finds himself oppressed by a sense of negativity while mingling with a crowd, he should assert his egohood in the same way. The greater the realization of one's self as a focal center of will, the greater the degree of personal positive atmosphere will be manifested. Visualization. In this chapter we shall speak of visualization in a number of places. Visualization is the creative process employed by occultists desiring to manifest mental images on the mental and material planes. Visualization consists in forming and holding a mental image of things and conditions as you wish them to be in actuality. The mental image tends to create for itself a material and objective form and existence. It is the mental pattern around which the material conditions tend to group themselves. It is, in fact, the seed form of the thing itself. The prime factor in visualization is to endeavor to create as clear as possible a mental image of the thing or condition desired, as if it were actually existent at that moment. These 3 rules of visualization should be observed sad face. 1. See yourself as you wish to be. 2. See others as you wish them to be. 3. See conditions as you wish them to be. Around these visualized ideals, do the material realities form and crystallize. Statements. All occultists have recognized the value of statements, or affirmations, as some call them. These occult statements are positive assertions of the existence of the conditions which you wish to bring about. They tend to aid the visualization to a great degree, and besides have a power of their own. There is an occult power in the spoken word which is not necessary to explain here. The assertion that the power exists is sufficient for the particular purpose before us. Always use statements as in the present tense. Do not say to yourself, such and such a thing will be by and by, but boldly assert, such and such a thing is existent and in actual being, now, this moment. There is also a good occult reason behind this, which it is not necessary to discuss in detail. The power of the positive occult statement must be experienced in order to be appreciated. Make your statements earnestly and positively. Avoid all half-hearted statements, for they result in half-hearted results. In making your statements, do not use a tone of entreaty or of asking a favor. Speak in a tone of command. Of course, these statements should not be made aloud to other people. They have the best effect when made in a state of meditation and concentration. Use them in connection with visualization, and you will find that they will tend to energize and vitalize your mental images. Denials. Occult denials are a form of occult statements. They have a most positive effect when rightly used. With the individual focalized in will, he is able to exert much occult power by boldly denying out of existence the obstacles and difficulties which beset his path. It is marvelous, at times, to see how the obstructing things evince a tendency to disintegrate and disappear from one's mental world, which is followed later by a response of like kind and degree in the material world. Do not be afraid to say, I deny this or that obstacle. It has no power over me. I deny it out of my world. For me, it does not exist. Make your denials as positive as your statements. Command, not beg or entreat. Mental alchemy. Mental alchemy or mental transmutation bears a striking analogy to material alchemy or transmutation, in the sense that in both there is a marked change in form and nature of the substances or things operated upon. Conditions and things, like material objects, may be transformed and transmuted at the will of the alchemist. Mentalism, in its most striking forms, is mental alchemy. In the crucible of the cosmic mind or brain things may be, and are transmuted and changed in their outward form and character. Nothing in the cosmos can be destroyed, but everything is capable of change. Remember, first and always, that mental alchemy means change. You do not destroy things, you merely change them. Mental vibration. In all forms of mentalism there is in evidence the phenomena of mental vibration. Vibration is not confined to the gross material substance of the universe, but is equally in evidence in the mind stuff with which all space is filled. Mind stuff is the elementary material of which the great cosmic world brain is composed. When one thinks, feels, or wills, there is manifest vibration just as truly as in the vibration of the atom or the tuning fork. Each kind of thought, feeling or emotion has its own rate of vibration, or keynote. When a certain rate of mental vibration is manifested, it tends to reproduce similar vibrations, and consequent similar mental states in the minds of those coming within its field of induction. Just as a tuning fork will cause similar vibrations in the objects in the room, so will a mind sending forth vibrations tend to reproduce those vibrations in other minds in its vicinity or under certain circumstances, at long distances. This being so, it follows that if an individual will carry, in his mind, a positive, persistent idea, backed up with an application of his will, he will be able to impress that idea upon others, with more or less effect. He will be aided in this by the practice of statements and by visualization, for both of these practices tend to send forth mental vibrations of a high degree of strength and power. Thought waves and currents. There are waves and currents in the great ocean of mind stuff, just as there are waves and currents in the ocean or in the air. Thoughts, feelings, and emotion manifested by an individual will tend to create waves or currents in the mind stuff, which will flow out in all directions, influencing and affecting others in their field of force, particularly if those others happen to maintain a degree of mental vibration corresponding to that of the traveling wave or current. Everyone sends forth these thought waves or currents, usually unconsciously and without direct intention, and consequently with comparatively slight effect. Those who understand the laws of mentalism are able to consciously direct, concentrate, and focus the will upon those whom they wish to influence, and consequently their thought waves and currents travel direct to their mark and create a much greater effect. Thought forms. Thought forms are concentrated thought waves or thought bodies usually projected from the mind by concentrated thought and will, and which, when coming in contact with others, have almost as great an effect upon them as if the sender were present in person exerting his will and mind upon the person or persons. Occultists who have acquired concentration and focalization are often able to send forth thought forms of so high a degree of power and strength that they produce upon others the mental impression that the sender, himself, is actually present in person, so strong is the impression created. In some of the methods which we shall now describe, the production of these thought forms will be described. Practical methods. We have said but a few words in describing the above-mentioned various phases of mentalism. We have not thought it necessary to go into detail regarding the theory of the phenomena. Those who read this book will have read elsewhere much of theoretical detail, and besides will have grasped the fundamental and underlying principles of mentalism from what we have said in the Arcane teaching. We think it preferable to pass on directly to the practical methods contained in the formulas, rather than to dwell upon the theoretical side of the subject. In connection with the methods herein described, we would say that while anyone may obtain some degree of success by practicing them, still in order to obtain any marked degree of success it is necessary for one to have first developed the will consciousness, or some degree of egohood. The will being the motive power back of all forms of mentalism and mental alchemy, it follows that he who is able to focalize and polarize his ego in will itself will be able to bring to bear the very highest degree of power in the phenomena of mentalism. Therefore, we have devoted the greater part of this book to pointing out the methods whereby one may develop the will consciousness and egohood within him. For when this one thing is attained, the rest is but a matter of detail. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the practical methods. We shall condense these in as few words as possible. The student must read carefully every word so that he will enter into a full understanding of the subject and methods. Concentration. The neophyte must develop and cultivate the art of concentration. Concentration means bringing to a center, and mental concentration is really a focusing of the will by means of attention. Concentration may be developed by practice. Learn to shut out distracting thoughts and ideas for a few moments, holding the mind, one pointed, upon the thing or idea before you. Then, after an interval, concentrate upon something else. After you have subdued the wandering tendency of the mind, gradually, you will find that you have acquired a new power of mind which will enable you to direct and apply a focalized mental power upon whatever idea or thing to which you may direct it. We could fill page after page with detailed exercises in concentration, but after reading them you would find that the essence of the whole thing consists in fixing the attention upon anything, and being able to hold it there. This is attained only by practice. And the practice may be had by fixing and holding the attention upon anything, for a few moments at a time, until you grow more and more proficient by practice. Remember, concentration does not mean staring at a thing. It consists of fixing and holding the mind, not the eyes. Begin practicing, and you will soon acquire the knack. It is altogether a matter of the use of the attention, by means of the will. All the rest is mere detail and trimmings. It will do you far more good to invent methods for yourself, than to blindly follow some set lesson mapped out by others. Use your own minds, and you will gain thereby. If you found this informative, please like, subscribe, share and comment, and also watch part 2.